Good afternoon. I'm Mike Collins. I'm the founder and CEO of Alumni Ventures. Today, 8 investing ideas that we think many investors are missing or slightly missing. But we wanted to share what our thinking is today. Before we get started, I'll read our disclosure. We're speaking today about Alumni Ventures and our views and associated opinions about the investing landscape. This presentation is for informational purposes only and is not an offer to buy or sell securities. Those are made only pursuant to formal offering documents for a fund. So with no further ado, let's talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that we think are taking place right now in the technology, venture, entrepreneur ecosystem. As I mentioned, I'm Mike Collins, your presenter. Alumni Ventures, it's a company I founded in 2013 to bring smart, simple venture to retail investors. We are community powered. The basic idea is that we can all do better together than any of us could do on our own. We have, a pretty good trophy case. The power of the community has been amazing. We now have over 10,000 investors, over 100 employees in the major venture hubs, Menlo Park, New York, Boston, Chicago. About half of our staff is related to full-time investing professionals, VCs in the communities. We view one of our jobs is to help educate and be transparent about a VC, how VC works, how VCs think, and what people are investing in, and ideas that we individually and as an organization have. And that's kind of our masterclass theme. Today's focus is just bringing together a few of those ideas where we're looking ahead to, the next few years and trends where we see there significant value can be created. Obviously, AI is front and center, but there are many, many areas that we think that tremendous companies are being created today, and just wanted to share those. These things, I've been in the business since the 80s as both an entrepreneur and as an investor, and these waves of technology are obvious in hindsight only. And when they're just appearing, that there is tremendous opportunity if you're willing to kind of lean in, be aggressive, and think about what is going to take place with good, rational analysis. So that's the context, that's the setup. I'm going to plow through these 8 ideas. Next slide. Okay, number 1, we call it the Ozempic Trade. So this is the innovation of GLP-1 drugs, the Manjaros, the Zepbounds, the pipeline of these drugs that are going to be released in the next couple of years. Obesity, which has been an epidemic and has created really kind of a whole obesity, diabetes, industrial complex, if you will, I think is really one of the most misunderstood, perhaps underestimated technology platforms. It is very clear that where the puck is heading here is that for the vast majority of people who struggle with weight, which is a majority of people, that they're going to have a huge new tool, and that one's weight is going to be much more of a choice than a constant challenge. So we think that this is going to open up a lot of secondary and tertiary opportunities. We list them here on the right. You know, I think this is going to upend a lot of things related to activity, weight loss counseling, the access to these drugs and secondary drugs. It's going to lead to a boom in cosmetic surgery. It has huge impacts for sex, fertility. The food industry is going to get upended, in our opinion. Again, these are some of the companies that, you know, we're invested in down below here. And again, I won't go through them all one by one. You can check them out. Pendulum doing some really interesting things with gut health and therapeutics that deal with kind of some of these fundamental issues of GLP-1 and related peptides, you know, wearables, exercise, you know, etc. So the Ozempic trade, big deal. Next. Fixing the loneliness epidemic with all profound technologies, the smartphone, social networks. They do tremendous good, but like a lot of technologies, there's unintended negative consequences. And it's very clear from the data that we have some challenges with young people dealing with mental health, with loneliness, exclusion, household formation, birth rates. These things are both a huge problem and then an opportunity where there are really amazing entrepreneurs and startups looking to improve things. So again, just a few of the more obvious things that are being addressed here on the right with teletherapy. One of our companies down below here, Sondermind, does great work in that space. We also think that there's going to be continued innovation with high touch innovations, developing third spaces, people getting together physically is not going away. I think there's going to be a variety of new innovations that is going to help fix the loneliness epidemic. So that's number 2. Number 3, space. Okay, again, I urge people to kind of move beyond the, you know, kind of billionaire tourism view of this. But there is a real business that is emerging in communication, in defense, in monitoring, sensors, etc. It is one area where when I'm asked by young people coming into the business, where should I develop a reputation? Where should I lean in? I think space is usually one of the places that I recommend, because if you look over the next 30 years, the one thing I can pretty much guarantee is there is going to be more and more technology, innovation, entrepreneurs, and huge opportunities in space, because it has, in essence, infinite horizons. You know, the universe is vast, and we are a tiny speck doing very crude preliminary things. But there's huge opportunities and huge legs, and space is an area which I think is exciting, and now at the point where it's beyond kind of the science experiment. We're moving into kind of a commercial entrepreneurial venture phase of it. So space. Okay, energy. It is clear the bottleneck in a lot of the technologies that we're looking at really come down to energy. And I think there has been a tipping point. I think that when you talk about renewables, fossil fuels, nuclear, fission, fusion, do we need it? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, and it's a little bit about like storage space or your computer storage. We will, if you have it, we will use it. And so, again, we think tremendous opportunities in energy along the board, and a lot of investment. I think we're seeing the private sector really get involved here, and we're going to continue to see that over the next 3 to 5 years. Again, we have a really proud portfolio of companies that we're involved in this space, with more that we want to do. So, energy, nuclear, fission, lots of innovation. Yeah, the healthcare industry has been for 30 years the place that a lot of ventures have gone to die. And venture funds targeting disruption in the space have failed. But I think we're at the point now with robotics, with AI, with a whole lot of other things that are coming together that I think we're going to see huge change and huge disruption in the healthcare system. It has been ripe for disruption for a long time. It is large, it is too expensive, the quality of the service is subpar, and I think the dam is going to be broken here in the next 3 to 5 years. So it is, it's probably not going to be an overnight thing. It's probably not going to be a frontal assault, but like a lot of disruptions, it is going to creep up. I think from more information in the power of the consumer, with their wearables and sensors and home tests, and the ability to kind of, create a personalized approach to one's health is going to happen. I think we're seeing the potential for some of the things that have been just devastating to longevity. Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease. I think we could see a lot of those being very turned into treatable conditions in our lifetime. So a lot of optimism, a lot of change, I think, is in store here. And I say this half facetiously, but I do think what a doctor is, which is fundamentally kind of a reader of sensor data and a decision tree database, is going to change pretty significantly over the next 10 to 20 years. So more to come, but I'm super excited about cheaper, more accessible, more effective medicine. Okay, very analogous about education, where it is so important and so liberating and so much part of the human condition, and it has gotten very expensive, especially when we're talking about colleges and universities, and kind of a two-tier system that is developed in our American society relating to education. This is one thing where I, had a friend, a niece just had a baby, and it's like, what should we do about 529 accounts, which I think have been a tremendous tool for people over the last 20 years. And, we had a good, deep discussion about, does that make sense with knowing what we know about where education is going and kind of personal educational assistance. I think our society is going to change profoundly over the next 17 years when it comes to how people learn, how people get educated, the role of AI, personal educational assistance, personal tutors, lifelong learning. I think there's a lot of really exciting startups and work to be done in this space. And again, coming from a long line of teachers, that it's hugely important. And I'm very excited and optimistic about great step forwards in education. 7. Okay, robotics. This is also coming, which is kind of the twin tower of AI and robotics. And we're super excited actually about the merger between the two of them. I think there is great value when you can combine a piece of hardware and AI and software. So I think there's great companies that can be created where you're combining AI and service and high touch innovations. I also think there's great opportunities when you can combine AI and hardware. And even the iPhone, I think, is a great example of hardware and software, and where AI and your handheld computer just is gonna, I think Apple's gonna continue to just crush it. But I do think broadly defined, just don't think about, Oculus and, physical robots. I think you want to think about self-driving vehicles. I think you want to think about things going on in warehouses, medical robots that are going to do remote surgery. Again, I think personal educational assistance for children. I think there's clearly we're in a world where warfare is changing before our eyes, and it's not about battleships and, $50 billion, Air Force contracts. It's going to be who has drones, who has cyber, who has, a robot that can go into a building. So I think robotics is a tremendous investment opportunity where we're going to see huge value created over the next 10 years. And the last one, blockchain. And again, part of our job is to zig where others zag. And I think a lot of people have kind of written that off as kind of, there was a bunch of nonsense, there was a bunch of speculation. Clearly Bitcoin is disrupting gold as a repository of value. It's on a long, probably 30-year transition to do that, but that's kind of happening before our eyes. I think this is going to, when you think about distributed ledgers and where the world is heading as far as kind of augmented reality, I think there's a huge disruption in trust as AI begins to make it very difficult to separate real from AI generated. I think we're going to need to count on, trusted distributed systems to be sure we're dealing with who we want to be dealing with. So, the area of finance, there is still a lot of centralized, inefficient financial opportunities. I think we're going to see things in gaming and AR, VR. I think we're going to see things in trust. Again, I just think that this is an inevitable wave that is, going to take decades, but will become the fabric of our lives as we go forward. So, okay, so, I put down a couple bonus ideas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but longevity tech, I think there's a direct thing about products and services extending life, but more importantly, healthy life. I think, again, you can look at the data and look at the pipeline, and I think it's pretty clear that we're going to begin to add nearly for every year another year of average longevity in pretty short order here. But that has, again, second, like we talked about a little bit with the loneliness epidemic. If people are living to be 100 routinely, What are the societal impacts? What are the governmental programs that get broken? There's a lot of secondary and tertiary side effects um, that take place when that happens. And that creates opportunity. Again, this is the business we're in, is every problem is an opportunity. I think we've lived since really the 50s and 60s in kind of an automobile-centric society. It has led to kind of McMansions and suburbia, self-driving vehicles, micromobility, new innovations in the kinds of transportation that we're going to see, AI bringing change to these systems as well. I think that is going to have huge opportunity and impact for society as we move away from the way we've lived. I'll just leave kind of the automobile, the suburbs, McMansions. I think these things are going to change profoundly with the next generation. Ownership, I think, is going to decline. I think there's going to be much more sharing, much more renting, much more flexibility in all dimensions there. And those create venture investing opportunities. And then, our financial services industry, Wall Street, again, highly regulated, but I do think we're going to see continued chipping away, democratization of alternatives. I think you're going to see new institutions created. I think there are things like the IPO market is clearly broken. The secondary market needs to be innovated in. I think you're going to see more and more kind of virtual assets. I think there's going to be regulatory dynamics here interchanging between these things. I think we're going to be looking at more of an international set of things going on when it comes to kind of finance and asset management. So they made me stop at 8, but could have gone on. So yeah, we have a questions thing, and so those have been coming in. So I'll read just a few of them and try to answer those. Yes. Okay. So, are you worried about AI being overhyped? Listen, valuation is always a part of the framework that we have to consider, but you consider that on really kind of a case-by-case basis. I think you have to look at, the risk-adjusted potential for the investment. And when you have, an idea and a business plan and an Irish setter, and you want a $100 million pre-money valuation, I think you have to, question that. I also think AI is a generational technology, and I think there are going to be many companies that create $50+ billion of value in this space, and it is very, very disruptive. So I think it's very hard to give a blanket statement. I do think there is a lot of spotlighting on it. That's one of the reasons I didn't put it into this deck, but it isn't because it isn't as profound as the internet or the mobile phone or, the automobile. It is a big deal. So the skill and art of this is to have a large diversified portfolio, back great teams, get in early, get in at reasonable prices, and hopefully have the opportunity to take some chips off the table as kind of valuations increase over time. So we're big believers in all of those things. Get in early, back great teams, invest alongside top tier venture capital firms, monitor your portfolio, add value to them, and take chips off the table as value is created when you can. Can I invest through a retirement account? Yes. So it's one of the things that is nice. And actually for, I don't know, a quarter to a third of our investors invest through their retirement accounts, self-directed IRAs. It's very easy to set these things up. So it's easiest just to get in touch with our people and have them walk you through how you do it, what you need to do. But it's a pretty good match. Venture capital is, illiquid long term, and that's really a pretty good fit for retirement funds. What do you think about the liquidity situation for 2025? That's a great question. So it has been a very quiet couple of years when it comes to exits. There's been regulatory headwinds. The big tech companies have been largely on the sidelines for M&A. The IPO market's been effectively shut. We are starting to see some signs of liquidity and loosening and melting. There's, I think with the rate cuts coming down, beginning a new cycle here, kind of working through a bit of a tech bubble, that took place in kind of 2022 timeframe. I think we're more through that than not. I think there has been an enormous number of companies that have been creating a lot of value. And frankly, there's just a boatload of really great companies on the runway ready to take off. So I think, I don't know is the obvious answer. But if you ask my opinion, I think 2025, we're going to see a reopening of the IPO market. And I do think there is going to be kind of a swarm of M&A activity as well that's going to follow that I think is going to probably overwhelm kind of the regulatory system to stop it all. And I think, frankly, there could be some lawsuits with the Chevron ruling, et cetera. So I think 2025 is going to be a very interesting year on the liquidity front, which is, something that, you try to be philosophical about, which is the important thing is to build great companies and the underlying value will eventually be realized. But it's sure a lot more fun and a lot nicer when you realize some of those gains. So good questions. And if people have more, again, we try to be very transparent. I just urge people to kind of, if you want to learn more, do your research, visit our website, but definitely talk to us. I mean, this is something where we try to build relationships with our investors. AV is owned exclusively by our teammates and our customers. So, we're network powered. Part of that is, relationship with our customers and owners that we want to be generational. So, if this is interesting to you, if this makes sense, reach out and we'd love to talk to you. So thanks.